Do you need to be a jerk to be a successful entrepreneur? A few days ago, I was reading a paper by an ex-Amazon employee. He was a very early employee at Amazon, and he was talking about how Jeff Bezos was a relentless and mean person when it comes to the startup and hiring people and doing all of these things that he does at Amazon. And then of course, when you think of a jerk entrepreneur, you think about Steve Jobs, and you think about like all of these people that are jerks. Like, they were not very nice people. And when also Bill Gates was also kind of a very relentless person. Now when we think of Bill Gates, we think of a very nice kind of Mr. Rogers personality, but in reality he was a very relentless person when he was younger. And I want to explore that question. Do you need to be a jerk to be a successful entrepreneur? Because if we take the most successful companies and the most successful entrepreneurs, we realize that a high percentage of them are not very nice when it comes to dealing with people or competitors or whatever, how they deal with things. And something that we need to understand is that a distinction that we need to make is that having that personality, a jerk personality, allows you to have focus. You're very focused on what you want to accomplish. However, having a laser focus, only focusing on your company, on what you're doing, on your goal, on your mission, has some consequences. And the consequence could be, and a lot of times is, the culture in the company. People are not really focusing too much on the job, but rather fearing whether they are going to lose their job or whether they're going to be fired. And that is not a really positive culture to have, because employees shift in how they shift their focus. That's one. And the other thing that I've realized, that when people are not very nice, is that sometimes it's because they're not nice. That's why they're successful, because to get to the level of success, you have to not care about what other people think of you and what you're doing. So you kind of naturally become like a jerk and an egocentric person per se, because you just do things and you just don't care. That's something that I think about. However, I think the question we should be asking is not whether we should be a jerk when you run companies or startups. I think the question that we should be asking: how can I make my company and employees be super effective and super productive? I think that's the real question that we should be asking, instead of do we need to be a jerk to be a successful entrepreneur. So how can we make a successful company, and how can we make our employees be really successful? So I think there's a few principles that we need to think about. So the first principle that we need to think about is, number one, employees should be safe. They should feel like they are not going to work, in that they should feel that they're going to do something productive and focused, so that they're focused on actually the work that they're doing rather than losing their job. So we need to give employees the sense of being comfortable, and not necessarily comfortable being like lazy, but comfortable in the meaning that they know something crazy isn't going to happen. The other thing is that companies' values and employees' values need to be aligned. If you are an events company, you shouldn't probably have an introvert trying to call people and make sales, right? So having those things aligned is important to understand. And I think with newer technologies, more and more we're going to be able to to understand whether companies align or not. Because if you're an introvert and I ask you, are you an extrovert? You're probably gonna say yes because you need a job. When in reality, you are not. Companies' values and customer values should align. And the other thing is that values need to align, but more than values, people need to understand why they're doing certain things and why they're working so hard and why they're trying to be so focused and so productive. So we, the entrepreneur, the founder, the CEO, and the employees should make the goals together, and maybe not making them together, but being aware of making those goals and trying to have the employees input when it comes to making the goals of the company and the results, and ensuring that moment, hey, we succeeded, hey, we did this, we did that. So that's important that we need to understand too. So don't ask yourself if whether you need to be a jerk to be a successful entrepreneur, because in reality it's effective, but not necessarily the most effective. What we should be asking is, how can I make my company the most effective and the most productive and the most successful while being a nice person? Number one, make your employees feel comfortable, that they are not, like, they don't feel that they're going to war. Number two, have the company's values align. And number three, have some inputs in the goals of the company so employees know what they're working on and for. I hope that helps. Thank you.